What's going on, everybody? It's Miles with the Regular People Podcast, and today we have a special guest coming on. Her name is Jasmine. She has an amazing story. She's a former educator who has recently transitioned into another field, but she's going to come on today to tell us a little bit about what it's like to be in the classroom. And whether you're a former teacher or a teacher who's still there in the profession, or someone who's thinking about, a career change, whatever the case might be, I think that you will be able to get something from this video. So be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. There's going to be a lot more videos coming soon, and enjoy. Later.
Graduated in December, got married in March, and was jobless until August. So then I was applying to schools to see how, because I knew about the job embedded programs. So I ended up working for a charter school. They were paying me a lot of money for no experience, but I had to go to school again because I didn't have my certification.
Yeah.
So I worked, I was a second grade math teacher in 2017 of August. And that was probably the worst experience of my life. Being in East Nashville charter school, it was very, very, because I grew up in Antioch, being East Nashville was a culture shock for me. And how the kids act, how the parents were acting, it was just very wild. I was definitely outside of my character. There was a time, and you can't really, it's very hard. I never thought I would teach elementary. I thought I was going to teach high school.
Okay.
So elementary was different because the kids would act out, and you knew it wasn't me. Like, it wasn't me. It was definitely the trauma in their background. And so there was a time where I knew I was kind of done. And this was my first, I started in August, but I was a late start. So there was a teacher that quit, and so they needed to hire someone immediately. I got in there like maybe September. So I was taking over a class, and they already were wild.
Right.
I remember there was a student that was crying because she didn't have a pencil. And I kept telling her, like, wait. And then I guess the pencil that she had kept breaking. And so she just started to spiral, and to the point where when this girl spiraled, she wasn't controlled at all. And I wasn't certified to restrain.
Sure.
So I had to call the assistant principal. And I remember we had to have the class evacuate. And I'm just like, okay. So they were like, all the kids get out. She's flipping tables, taking off all the things off my desk. I mean, this is my first year. So she's taking all the things off my desk. She's going crazy. There's someone in there. The assistant principal was certified to restrain. And so they restrained her, and I was still in the vicinity, and she kicked me in my stomach.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, oh, okay. So this is what people are talking about. Like, I'm about to lose my job, right? But luckily, they definitely were supportive of me in whatever I needed. I wasn't hurt. It was just a shock. Like, oh my God, like, this girl just kicked me in the stomach, and they made it like a whole big deal. They made sure the girl didn't come back and all that stuff. So that was great. I did stay to the end of the year. I mean, I put in my resignation, and they begged me to stay because they didn't. It was a couple months left. They're like, can we just please stay? And I'm just like, okay. So from there, I knew I wanted to leave that school.
Wow.
And they also required me, even though it wasn't in the contract, they required me to be there for 12 hours. So I remember the principal sat me down and was like, hey, you're not really doing your lesson plans. You're not reading the requirements. If you can just be here from 6 to 6, you will be successful.
So that was the moment to tell you to stay longer. Like, what? Like that I don't feel like that is actually, I don't feel like that's a different story than a lot of the stories that I hear, at least horror stories.
Yeah.
It's very seldom, that I hear from another teacher that they've had a super positive experience, and I'm not saying that there aren't positive experiences to be had, but, I think that there are a lot of situations in education where you know, there's a lot of teachers who really feel like, why the heck did I get into
Right.
to teaching?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I actually identify with a lot of what you said, about how you got started in education. I too, I had a family member who worked up, at the Board of Education and first, told me about, um, you know, teaching. And at first it was just substitute teaching, so I did that and I actually had a really awesome time being a substitute, which you don't hear a lot.
Yes.
And I know why now, but but when I was doing that, I found another love for students. And I think that love, a lot like, just regular relationships that we have, was based on, first of all, it was based on a need that I had, of course, the financial need to make more money. And then also on the emotional side of all of these kids. So it was purely emotional. It wasn't really based on understanding the market. It wasn't based on, understanding how finances work.
Right.
It wasn't based on understanding longevity. It was really just, it was purely emotional. And I love my experience that I had. But at the same time, it's like, there were some days where I was like, what the heck is going on?
Right.
I'm gonna resign. Why did I get into this? So, interesting, very interesting story. And I'm interested. I try to put myself in the mindset of, how did you feel about that? Like, did you have any inclination that this person was capable of doing, flipping out in that way in the classroom beforehand?
No, had no idea. It went from 0 to 100. No one warned me. I feel like teachers didn't know, like, oh, like, let's wait and see what happens. Like, they knew, like, oh, you have that class, but it was definitely a shocker. And that was the moment I was like, okay, it's not their fault. It's not the kids' fault. So I think that elementary is not for me. So I just knew, like, from there, like, maybe it's a different age group because I still like teaching. I like the art of teaching.
Yeah.
But no one really tells you. And I feel like even college, they set you up for the art of teaching, but they don't set you up for the reality of teaching.
So, and to that point, I think I used to hear this a lot. All the teachers would be like, "This is not like the books that we, that we were reading through in college." It's like it's a whole different world, and I just think that's a really interesting point because there's a disconnect between what we're being taught in university classes and then what's actually happening in the real world. Like, my college professor was smiling at me, when she taught me these different theories. She was like, yeah, it's going to be blah, blah, blah. Just use this right here. Oh, you have to use this. But in the real world scenario, everything doesn't click that way,
No.
So, yeah.
So from there, I wanted to teach in middle school. I'm like, okay, let's just go, let's teach math somewhere else. So I end up getting a job at a middle school. It was 6th grade math. I loved it. Oh my gosh. I was just like, I love this math. It's just as easy. Like, it's right at the top of what I know of math.
Sure.
The kids were so, like, they weren't too baby, but they were just like, just the perfect. They still were, they still cared about their parents being called, but then they still understood my sarcasm in the classroom. So I taught 6th grade math and I had a great team. And I actually taught my coworker that actually I worked with her the entire time. We collaborated with math. So she was like a math teacher that taught a different set of kids.
Yeah.
So we worked together actually the entire time up until I left. So she was with me. We collaborated. We bought a lot of lessons on Teacher Pays Teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved it up until I didn't. So yeah, I love teaching. And I mean, I remember even getting my first evaluation, and I remember my assistant principal telling me, like, this is telling me my expectation. I had a great assistant principal, my direct. He was amazing. He helped me a lot. So that was great. I think now there's some instances in the 6th grade that challenged me, but it was still pretty mild. I think one of the things that was a challenge was just getting parent support. And I know it's different which part of town you're in, the economic status of a lot of the kids.
Sure.
And so I feel like where I taught it was still like poverty, but working class. So a lot of the parents are there, but they are absent because they're working a lot to stay in the city.
Yeah.
But when I was at the elementary school, the parents didn't work, but also weren't there. And there was and it wasn't because they weren't working, it's because they just didn't want to. And there was a neighborhood across the street. And we'll be like, do we have to do home visits? Like, so we did home visits at my first job. But
Really?
yeah, we had to do home visits.
You don't hear a lot about home visits.
And it was a part of your evaluation.
See.
Yeah. But they paid your cell phone bill though. And they paid your gas.
Nah.
At the charter school. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's huge.
Yeah.
Because you don't really hear about home visits anymore.
Charter schools, you have to. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a thing.
Now, I've never worked at a charter school. I was mainly in just the the Nashville district.
It's a whole nother beast.
I hear that.
Oh yeah. It's not public.
But a lot of because I actually taught. I was a mentor teacher for Teach for America.
Okay.
And a lot of those teachers were like, when I would see them, I was like, okay, you guys are a little bit in over your head because you don't realize what you're getting yourself into. And I didn't know, I didn't know the difference between charter schools and, the regular district schools. So I was just, I thought I knew, but then I started hearing stories and I started to see that it was a combination of the training. It was a combination of the environments.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times these charter schools are in, neighborhoods that are, some of them are still being gentrified, and there are some where you got, just like you said, a lot of poverty issues. So I'm interested, what do you feel, about those parents not being there? What is your take on how the school tries to manage, students who bring in those behavior issues, and the parents who you can't really get in contact with? What do you think about the whole situation? Does it get better? Is there a way to fix it?
I used to harp that we have to make sure parents have more accountability. I truly believe that they try everything to point the finger at everyone else except for the parents. Yeah. Parents lack so much accountability when it comes to their kids' behaviors. I used to be like, man, if we can just implement something to where if a child gets a bad grade, let the teacher let the parent get fined. I wonder if scores will increase if they start hitting your pockets. That was just something where can we, or if a child gets a referral, let the parent get fined. Because this is free education. You guys are here, and because if it was a private school, it would be different. And sure. I know of private schools that if you don't make the mark, you get kicked out because they want to keep their status. Here, even Nashville, they do not keep students because they want 100% ACT scores to be a certain way and college acceptance rates. If you're not doing that, they're kicking you out so their stats can stay true. But when it comes to public school, it feels like any and everything goes and teachers get blamed.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's frustrating.
That's a big one, and I felt that too. The interesting thing is I actually, and I say this with a grain of salt, I love my teaching experience.
Sure. Okay.
And I only say that not because I just love the profession, but I say that because I believe there was a point where I look back on my teaching career and I say, you know what, I have more good days than bad days. And that was maybe my first, I want to say, okay, so I can break it down. The first 2 years, I was like, everything's cool. I'm having awesome relationships with students, mainly my guys. Didn't really matter what race, and all of them, they would all take to me, come to my room. I was very strict, but they respected that.
Yeah, same.
And I had a lot more patience with my school.
Okay.
But then life started moving. I get married. Well, not married. Well, I was already married. So, right. I had my first son. Then things start to get a little bit more. I get stingy with my time.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
it's like I reach a point where I'm like, okay, I'm not taking this stuff home.
Most definitely.
But I was still doing it. You know, I was still doing it.
I stopped that. Well, I was teaching the same grade for a while, so I end up reusing a lot of things. But yeah.
So and it was like the more stingy I got with my time, the more I started to realize like
can't be the best teacher that you want to be.
You can't.
No.
And you know, each year it got worse. It really did. Not the students. The students have their own thing.
Sure.
My understanding of the environment started to really alter my perception of teaching. You know, I was a coach. I was coaching multiple sports, and it was like the schools are going to be like, yeah.
I was coaching too.
Yeah. See?
Multiple sports. Yes.
Yeah. And the schools, of course, are like, yeah, go. Give more.
Yeah.
I had my daughter. I'm finishing my master's program. And I come to a point where I'm like, okay, something is different. And then my good days started to dwindle a little bit.
I know.
You know, did you have a moment like that where you realize, okay, there are good days, but I can't stop thinking about how bad this day is, how bad this experience is. Was there like a particular experience that you were feeling like repetitively?
I remember, and this was my last full year teaching. I put in my all. Like everything that they ever said, I did it. I had so many posters. I even changed like my door. I decorated my door every season. Like I just did. I contacted parents. I did daily updates. I did websites. I took stuff home. I went above and beyond. I ended up getting a level 5.
Oh wow. Okay. You was on it.
I like literally I was pushing, and I'm like, I'm gonna put in the most effort for real. Like sometimes you can kind of get feedback and be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna still do what I want. But I really did put in
That was me.
the work, right?
That was me.
And I understand that I just did what I wanted, but this time I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna just go hard, and I did.
Yeah.
The next year, I'm like, okay, y'all want all these teachers to be level 5s. Me and my coworker, we pulled through 6th grade. We were on top. Nothing.
In terms of like test scores?
As in congratulations. Continue to do what you're doing. You're doing a great job. Wow, like hats off to you. Confetti, gift cards, money, something. Like, and it felt like it fell flat.
Like, yeah.
And every meeting I would be like, Bo, okay, you're telling us how we can improve. But I made the scores. So what more do I need to improve? What about just continue to do what you're doing? But what was frustrating for me was they kept pushing. What are your grows and glows? What is it that you can do better? I've gotten a 5. You want me to get a 5+? You want me to get a 6? Like what is going on there? And it felt like there was always something. And I remember sitting in this lady's retirement party. She taught for 30 years. And she was like so ecstatic. It's like, I'm so happy to leave this place. This is a thankless job. And I sat there and I was like, oh my God, that's what I'm feeling.
That's it.
This is a thankless job. And from there I was like, I gotta get out.
Oh my goodness.
That was the moment. When she said this is a thankless job, I said, a light bulb came on. And I was like, it's time for me to go.
Dang.
And she's been working for 30 years and she's retired. And I said, she is not me.
Wow. That's big. That's big. I hadn't had a moment like that. Because I didn't know anybody I didn't know, anyone who taught for that long.
Oh yeah.
So she left out as a teacher.
Yes. It was her retirement party. She was giving out all her stuff in her class. I mean, she worked in Florida. She worked in Tennessee. Like she loved project-based learning. She kept trying to bring it like, this works. I was a Florida teacher. She was just just the sweetest lady. She was very vocal about how she felt about education and all that stuff.
Okay.
And I remember she said, this is the most thankless job. And I was like, if you're saying this at 30 years, it's not going to get better for me. I have to go.
So at this point, like how far were you into?
This was my 5th year. Like this, I remember I kept hearing that in the back of my head. And I was like, I think I have to go.
Yeah.
And I felt this tug. I was like, I'm not passionate. Like, because this is thankless, what am I doing this for? And you don't do it. I still, again, I love teaching. I know it's my gift. I love building the relationship with the kids. But the system frustrated me.
Yeah.
And that's the part of the thankless, like not feeling appreciated. Like even my 5-year mark, like where was my gift? Like where was my pen? I know y'all give out pens. Where's my pen? Where's my mug? Where's my Metro highlighter at? I don't know. But just the appreciation of it all, it felt like it was lacking. So I wanted to be an administrator. So I wanted to get my EDS.
Okay.
And so people don't really know what that is, but it's after a master's. I got my master's in curriculum and instruction, and that was to get my certification as well. Yeah. Like I had to do that job embedded thing. And so then after that, I got my EDS, and actually, I just finished my EDS, but I was getting my EDS in administration, and then I saw an option for education technology. And I was like, we're just out of the pandemic. Like, let me get into this. Like, I know about education and technology. So I was doing that. And increasingly, as I kept taking more classes, I got more passionate about education technology and less passionate about the classroom. And then hearing the thankless thing just kind of took it over the edge.
Goodness. I mean, you have such a parallel to my own experience. You know, when I jumped into the PhD program, it was for educational technology.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
And I was at a university and then transitioned over to my university now, and they didn't have the same program. So I just did, a regular education program for the PhD. But yeah, so
I know I said a lot. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, because I think, first of all, your experiences are super important, not just for, like just clearing your mind and also letting people know like how you felt and moving on from that, but also the people who are coming up behind you, because there are still teachers, the curriculums are still the same. I've seen the curriculums and at the university level, and I'm like, this is all the same stuff. Like you guys are still doing the same exact thing. So when I first started my PhD, I was going to focus on, I can't even think what it's called. It's called autobiographical storytelling, which was a form of mentorship where, teachers like us would go back and mentor new teachers who were in the program and kind of let them know the nitty gritty. Like, all right, yeah, this is pedagogy, but let me show you what it's like to be here.
Yes.
All right, go ahead and teach me how to read a paragraph, but I also want you at the same time to go talk to little Johnny while he's going crazy and tell this excelling student.
Let's talk about that.
Oh, goodness.
Because classroom management is not teaching. Okay? So, and for all my days, I literally, when I graduated my undergrad, they asked for a survey after you graduate. I said, y'all did not teach me about classroom management. When I got my master's, and they was like, do the surveys. Is there anything that we could change different about the program? Okay, classroom management. There needs to be a whole section like on that, and I feel like that's how I was able to really be a successful teacher, is because I subbed for 2 years.
Yeah.
Subbing is not teaching. Subbing is classroom management.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you become a teacher, it's classroom management and then teaching. And so to combine the two, that's where people lack, and I'm thankful for my subbing experience because all I did was classroom manage.
So would you recommend like that?
100%.
You say
Yes. You should sub first.
Sub
You
first.
should sub first.
And
Yes.
now that I think about it, that's probably the reason why I think I did, a decent job being a teacher and
Yes.
establishing those relationships, because I didn't focus so much on the curriculum.
Yeah. What? I'm only here for a day or two.
Yeah.
And that was a long-term sub too. And everything was already marked out. And it was like read. It was like read and then do the work. It was in high school. There were seniors. And so I gave the work and but mostly it was, how can I gain control of this classroom? Because I know they're seniors. They don't want to be here,
Okay.
but I'm not the teacher. Okay. All I need to do is when someone comes in here, it needs to look like I got some management over this space.
Yeah.
And I handled it.
Yeah.
Now, was I 3 years away from them in age? Yes, because they were seniors and I was a junior in high school.
It helps.
Right?
It does help.
But that does help because they're like, oh, she cool.
Yeah.
And like, now that I see them now, I'm 30, you're 26. Like,
Yes.
we're close to, but they still calling me Miss Foreman, sure. But we're the same age, whatever.
Yeah.
And so it is kind of weird in that way. But yeah, sub all day long for sure. But now, like, okay, so then so long story short, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm like, I have to leave. So this is the summer of my 5th year. So I taught for 6 years though. I did 1 year at 1 year at charter school, bless it, and then 5 years at the middle school. Okay, and then this is now the summer going into my 6th year. They are taking 5th grade out of middle school, and my certification is K-5, so I have to go anyway. And so they're like, we're going to move you to 5th grade for my 6th year. And I'm like, oh, I've heard about 5th grade is not 6th grade. They're a little bit more immature. Yeah. I just don't like saying get in line. Like, I hate, like, that was one thing I hated. Like, get in line. Like, just let them go to the bathroom and run back. I don't know. That was just me. But I'm applying for jobs on LinkedIn, over 200 jobs.
Okay.
Over 30 interviews. So many people. Oh, you're a teacher? Oh, yeah. You have no experience. You have no experience in this field, of education technology because you're a teacher. But then there were some that were like, oh, you're a teacher. Oh, but like the pay was horrible. So it was going through a lot of that. There are pro teacher spaces, and then they're like, oh, you don't have experience because you're a teacher. So that was frustrating me in that space. August comes. This is this was 2023. August comes, I'm crying, sitting in my room because I'm like, I cannot believe I'm here.
Yeah.
But in integrity, and because I'm a woman of faith, I was just like, you know what? I need to still put my best foot forward. So I set up my classroom, the best I've ever done, I think, in all of history, even better than my level 5. I set up my classroom. The kids, it looks like glory land in there. The kids are coming in, and I'm like, this is not for me. I'm setting up this classroom for another teacher. Like, this is not for me. I applied for a project coordinator position at a university. And in the interview, they're like, I know you applied for this, but your resume, what if you're a teacher assistant? And I'm like, okay, this is a university, so it's not a downgrade. I still don't want to be a teacher, but sure. They're like, we're not paying. You're getting a $20,000 decrease in pay. And I'm like, man, I declined all these other jobs.
No, from the position or from teaching, like from your teacher's salary?
It's from my teacher's salary. But now, mind you, I had a master's plus because I didn't finish my ADS. I am in school. I'm still in school, but I'm still applying for a job. So this job popped up at this university here in Nashville. And she's like, okay, I know you could probably do project coordinating, but what if you're a teacher assistant? So I still was put in a box of like teacher roles and teacher vibes. So I was like, okay, I just took it. I was so desperate. I just needed to go.
Yeah.
I gave Metro a month notice because I still wanted to be in good standing. I was like, oh, just in case I have to go back. So I gave them a month notice. And so then, November, I was out of there. Deuces.
Yeah.
I was so ready. And I did not care how much I was getting paid. Now, what was interesting was when I first got my check, because I was getting the 12-month pay taken out of, as when I was a teacher, and people need to know this, when you're a teacher, you do not get paid over the summer.
Yeah, it's just broken down.
If you signed up for 12-month pay, then they will take out a couple $100 every 2 weeks so that way they can give it back to you in the summer.
Right.
So let me just tell you what's messed up too. Oh, I got so many stories. Oh my God.
That's a good one. We got time.
I leave, right? I leave Metro.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm going to get paid my summer payout because they were already taking money. So they were going to give me my 12-month, whatever I signed up for. They're going to give me that back. Well, the check before that, like the check before my last check, I only had $100 on my check.
Yeah.
I ran up to the board and I said, "What happened to my check?" I'm crying hysterically. And they're like, "Oh, well, in August, the first week of August, you don't work the first two full weeks. So we give you a full paycheck."
And so they just counted that as the money you were supposed to get on this last check.
So they took it away.
Yeah.
They took it away.
That's ridiculous.
And I'm like, they said, "So if you ever leave early," this is also good to know. And it's almost like a trap.
Hey.
If you leave Metro early without staying all the way till May, they will take whatever they paid you the first week of August. They're going to take it back because that's supposed to count for the last week of May when you don't work the full 2 weeks in May or whatever.
Yes.
So that hurt me really bad. But then, of course, I got my summer payout. And so that helped. Then I started working at this new job and making $20,000 less, but my paycheck was the same payout. And I think it's because they take out the pension, they take out the 401k, then they take out the summer pay. So half of my check was getting taken away anyway. So where it actually evened up, and I was like, "Whoa, I'm not missing anything. This is crazy."
Right.
But it's also sad because there's a lot of teachers making this less as well.
Oh yeah.
So I was working at this job, and it was trash for sure. It was definitely like all I did was proctor tests. They didn't tell me. I was sitting there proctoring tests for hours, 7 to 8 hours every other day, proctoring tests. It was, oh my God, horrible. And these were like high.
And you said this title was teacher assistant.
Yes, okay. And they did not tell me that was basically they needed someone to proctor tests. So I did that, and it was horrible. It wasn't stimulating like when it came to me thinking and then I'm still in school for ed tech, and I'm like, what does this have to do with ed tech? Like, this is crazy. But I was working with I was making tests too for other teachers. And I was working with this program called ExamSoft, which is like an LMS. So I was able to put that on my resume. Right. And I was like, I feel like I need to apply. So I was like, I feel like I need to apply to another job. So I kept applying more to other jobs. And randomly, I landed an interview, right, for an instructional technology specialist at another university. When they looked at my resume, and I will always encourage people to continue to update your resume no matter what. Right. And I put that university that I was working for, I put that on my resume. And I put ExamSoft on my resume. When I had the interview, they were like, "Oh, wow, like, you're the only person that we've interviewed that actually worked with ExamSoft. We want to hire you now."
That's it.
I was only at I was only at this other job for 3 months. So I decided to take a pay cut from teaching to this university. I took a pay cut working with ExamSoft for 3 months. I applied to this other job, and they said I had the most experience that they've ever interviewed. Like, all the people they've ever interviewed, they said I had the most experience because of ExamSoft.
Was it a new,
No, exams office. No, it's not. No, it's just a lot of universities use it for their testing because they have like a lockdown browser you can work with and stuff.
Okay.
Wow. 3 months of experience with exam because I wasn't going to get exams off experience as a teacher. I really felt like the Lord wanted me to work at this job for 3 months just so I can be the most experienced at the job I'm really supposed to have. And now they wanted to hire me on the spot. I was like, I need to give them 2 weeks. I still want to give, even though I could have just quit because they were making me upset. Anyways, still give the 2 weeks just so I can be in right standing. I just don't want to burn any bridges ever. And that's just how I am. I don't want to burn any bridges.
It's smart. That's a smart
way. And that's definitely wisdom. Never burn bridges. Even your worst enemy, don't burn that bridge. I just don't believe in burning bridges at all. And so I left, and now I'm making the most I've ever made.
Word.
Because
that's it.
I had 3 months of experience with exams.
Yeah. See, and I think that's, man, that right there, just like, there was a lot. There's so much in there that I can pull out. You know, when I heard you talking about the resume, and I was like, man, dude, this.
Oh my gosh.
And, you know, just taking on experience and understanding like how to embed that into your resume is a tricky thing.
It's tricky.
I still look on LinkedIn. Not that I'm not looking for another job, but when I look on LinkedIn, I look to see how many people are applying to different jobs.
Oh, it's crazy.
Dude,
it's crazy.
Hundreds of people.
Remote jobs are...
And I understand that, you know, when you see that number, it doesn't mean that everyone is actually applying. It just means they kind of click to apply there.
Sure.
I mean, they're actually doing it. But I know that a lot of teachers have reached out to me since I've actually, you know, moved on from education and have asked me, like, how did you land a job in tech? And I'm like, you know, really, I didn't even apply. You know, I didn't apply to where I'm at now. A recruiter reached out to me. But when I knew I was about to leave education, I knew it was getting there. You know, one of the things that I, you know, had learned just looking at YouTube videos and looking at people who have similar stories to you and myself, resume is king. Like resume, you have to make sure that you're documenting the things that you do
and diversify it too.
Yeah, and it's
hard. Yeah, as a teacher,
it's difficult. You know, if you're teaching, but at the same time, you got to be creative. You know, it's like the programs that I use now at my job. I was using them, but I didn't realize I was using them for the purpose of going somewhere else.
Sure.
Just like when you use PowerPoint, don't just take it lightly. Like PowerPoint is an instructional design tool. It's educational technology.
Definitely get on Articulate for sure.
Articulate. That was something I learned about when I was in China, and I just started using that for the teachers I was managing. And it was like, man, all of these different things. I really had to sit down and think about. Man, I've actually done a lot of things. I've led not organizations, but I've led meetings. I've led PDs. You know, I've helped teachers do specific things, and then there's mentor. All that stuff you have to put in your resume.
Yes.
You know, you have to make sure that even if you do have, you're at a job for 3 months, you are learning valuable skills.
Oh yes,
that translate to other places.
100%. I know, like. So when it comes to, and now we can transition to resumes and just the wisdom on that. Your resume is so important. There are AIs out there that can help change your resume to certain things. I use Till. Till was like they actually even organized all the interview, all the jobs I applied for and was able to do all that. When you end up getting the interview, because your resume is going to be amazing after you listen to this, and it doesn't have to be fancy either. But when you get to interview, it is so important. It's going to probably be virtual. I've hardly had any interviews that were in person. Any of the interviews, make sure you have great lighting, and a good camera. I know partially why I got hired is because I had a clean background. I have a ring light. I have an iPad, a very new iPad where it actually tracks me when I'm moving.
Yeah.
And I heard my direct say, "Oh, I just had an interview. Her lighting and camera was horrible. I can't hire her."
Wow.
It's the little things.
I wouldn't even think about that. Like,
little things. They want to see your face. They want to see your personality. So that's very important. Also, when you're answering interview questions, don't answer them with a question or like a question. Like, hey, why would you want this job or whatever? And you're like, I want this job because it's good. Or I want this job because I think I'm good at it. Like, okay, you don't sound confident. Just say it with confidence. Say it like you already got the job. But yeah, it is different. I think when stereotypically or just as a woman, even as a Black woman, I think that sometimes we can just have imposter syndrome. And so we got to get out of that and just say, you know what? Even as a teacher, I can do way more. And I've realized teachers do way more.
Did you feel that?
Oh my gosh.
Did you feel that imposter syndrome when you got into even after you got the, after you got the job?
Yes. I probably felt like a little insecure, little adopted child. Like, am I doing great? Am I doing great? They're like, you're doing amazing. Actually, you're doing too much. Scale back some. Wow.
I'm sorry.
Scale back some.
Exactly.
There's no timeline. Yeah.
My boss literally, not my boss, my manager literally just came to me and was like, dude, when are you going to take off?
Oh, God.
It's like, I've never
putting us up.
Exactly right. I've never experienced that. And the new environment, like, is so slow. It's so much slower, where you can actually you can breathe, and that alone just caused me to feel anxiety, at the new career that I'm doing right now. And it's like, just the silence. It's like, man, I've never been in a position where it's quiet.
Well, here's the thing, because education is a start and an end. Like August to May, you have so much to do within that time, and then there's a break. And now I'm learning, and I'm still learning, and I'm trying to become accustomed to that with regular jobs. It's just there's so many things happening at once that one might end, but then there's another project that might be going on. Then that will end and another project going on, and it keeps going. There's no real end.
Yeah.
And so with teaching, we try to rush to teach the standards because there will be an end. Yeah. But with other jobs, it keeps going. And so that's just definitely the hard adjustment, transitioning out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. I can go on forever.
Well, I was gonna.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hold you forever.
Sure.
But I'm interested in like what would you what's some advice that you would tell someone who's looking to move away from education, or even some for people who aren't looking to move from education, just trying to find a way to deal with and understand like how to really manage life as a teacher. What's some advice that you would have for someone in either one of those scenarios?
Sure. Therapy.
Oh, okay.
No, seriously.
No, I'm sorry I laughed. That's not what I meant.
Probably because I did it with a straight face, but like therapy. That is going, because if I give just advice, everybody's situation is different. And I would hate to give advice and someone take it and it wasn't for them. But I believe with therapy, it's specialized to your own situation where you can be more emotionally intelligent about yourself to where you can now apply. Is teaching for you?
Then
is this for you? How can you be a better teacher? How can you be a better person, a better spouse, a better partner, a better friend? Like all those things kind of tie into your occupation, honestly. How can you be a better you? And if being a teacher is not creating a better you, then you have to leave. Yeah. If being a better you is to be a teacher and all that, then you need to stay a teacher and become a better teacher, better you, better person. Yeah, that's the most important advice I can give for sure.